Okay, one of the things I need for everyone in this room to clearly understand is how a reverse mortgage works. You can't advise your clients unless you understand a few basic principles about how a reverse mortgage is created. If your client, Lonnie, wants to buy a house today and they're under 62, they're going to put a down payment on that house and they're going to have a mortgage payment that exists for a specific number of years. It's likely to be a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, but it could just as easily be a 20 or a 15-year mortgage, or if somebody is later in life, might be a 10-year mortgage. Whopping big mortgage payment, but for only 10 years. So that mortgage is time sensitive. It's based on the number of years that you take the mortgage out for. That is called a forward mortgage. A reverse mortgage is not time sensitive. We do not have any guidelines or any rules in a reverse mortgage that says you're going to have this reverse mortgage for X number of years. And if you outlive it, the reverse mortgage ends. That's not what happens. A reverse mortgage is age sensitive. It's not years sensitive. So get your arms around that. It's an age-sensitive product. The older you are, it stands to reason you're going to be occupying that home for fewer years. A 62-year-old man has much greater expectation of living to the mid-80s than somebody who's already 90 when they apply for the reverse mortgage. So if I'm going to do a reverse mortgage for a 90-year-old, the likelihood of him living another 10 years is fairly remote. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm saying that if you outlive our projection, that is not your fault. It's because we underprojected it. You have the ability to stay in your house, and I want to be crystal clear about this, for as long as you live and as long as the surviving spouse lives. So if you and Bob would take a reverse mortgage out and he died 15 years later, you would have the right to live in that house for as long as you lived after that. What makes a reverse mortgage attractive in the first place is there is no mortgage payment. The reverse mortgage gets paid off at the end. The house is sold, the bank is paid, and any residual value goes to the heirs based on what that house is worth at the time the last surviving spouse dies. The bank is simply making a credit against your equity for every year that you live, and every year that you make your tax and insurance payment. You never get to a point where you pay off the reverse mortgage by making forward mortgage payments for 30 years or for 20 years. It's simply based on the simple premise that the bank is going to get paid after the fact, not before the fact. So the longer you live, the better the reverse mortgage deal is for you, in a sense. Is that clear to everybody? There is no mortgage payment. The bank collects the money due them at the termination of the reverse mortgage, triggered by two events, and only two events. One is that the last surviving spouse dies, or two, the last surviving spouse no longer occupies the property as their primary residence. This is a gold mine for retirees. It excuses them from the bulk of their housing payment. It doesn't excuse them from all of their housing payment because they still have to pay the taxes and insurance and maintain the home, just as if they own the home outright. If there's anybody in this room who owns a home outright, they know they still have to pay their taxes. They don't have to, but they ought to insure the property, and they ought to maintain the home to protect its value. There's no difference. You're in essentially the same place with a reverse mortgage as you would be as if you owned your home outright. That's the simplest way to visualize it. So after the second spouse dies, the mortgage lender who offered you the reverse mortgage gets paid. It gets paid from the sale of the house. Now, why would a bank offer that kind of deal? The simple fact of the matter is the bank has no risk because you buy private mortgage insurance on this house as part of a reverse mortgage. In the early years of a forward mortgage, where you have less than 20% equity, you have to take out private mortgage insurance. That protects the lender in case of an early default. The husband and wife get a divorce, or the plant closes down and the old man loses his job. They can't do the debt service anymore. Does the bank lose any money on that deal? No, because they required you to buy private mortgage insurance as a condition of lending you the money. No private mortgage insurance, no loan. And we've had cases where the bank said yes to us on the loan and PMI denied the loan. In a reverse mortgage, the opposite is true. We get no risk in the beginning because a very small fraction of your home's equity is tied up in the reverse mortgage balance. We got a $5,000 interest write-off going against a $250,000 value. That's a very small percentage of the value of the house. 250. Do the math, it's a very small percentage. It's less than 1%. But Bob and Letty keep living, and their 5% keep growing. So 20 years down the road, they don't owe us $5,000, they owe us $100,000. 30 years from now, they owe us $150,000. I'm not going to tell you that it's impossible, but one of the two of them could make it to 100. You're looking at close to, in some cases, a 62-year-old, we're looking at 38 years. At the end of 38 years, the last surviving spouse dies. They are going to owe us that 5% times 38 years, which is $190,000, without factoring in the fact that that $5,000 is compounding. They're going to owe us really $275,000. We don't know what the house is worth. 38 years later, this $250,000 house, what would you estimate in Hudson 38 years later what a $250,000 house would be? 500 grand?
Oh, probably 750.
750. They're still going to have a ton of equity in the house.
Depends the condition also.
That's right. And how well it's adapted to the changing buying taste of the public. After all, I mean, when the house was first built in 1980, they didn't have glamour kitchens. They didn't have glamour bathrooms. Kids won't buy it without that today. If there's $5 a penny work that has to be done in the house, the wife's not going to want to buy the house. That's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, the bank gets their money after the house is sold. So your kids, who are no spring chickens anymore themselves, sell the house for $750,000, pay the $275,000 loan off, and pocket the 500 grand or the 475. They split it between themselves. That would be the usual scenario in this case. If the loan amount exceeded the value of the home after the closing costs, the bank files their PMI insurance claim and they get paid the balance. So this makes a reverse mortgage a very attractive loan for the lender because they can sell the servicing rights for a reverse mortgage to a pension plan or an insurance company. They know they're going to get that 5% coming in for the life of both of you. That's a good deal for an actuary to plug in 5% for perhaps 25 years. So in all honesty, these loans are highly sought after by those asset managers who need to plug in the future value of money. But to get back to the street, the fact of the matter is what makes a reverse mortgage compelling as an alternative to any other loan is that you don't have to pay it back. Mom and Dad could take a home equity line of credit out in this scenario. They would be underwritten, they'd be looking at their pension assets, they'd be looking at the value of the house, and the ability of Mom and Dad, who are already extremely cash poor, of making an additional payment on top of that. Many of those banks are simply going to say no, in all candor, Lonnie. They won't. They'll be at 50% loan to value. But the fact of the matter is the last thing we want to impose on a borrower is a solution that entails an extra payment when they can't afford their existing payments. We give this couple $100,000 home equity line of credit. For a couple of years, it's going to be an introductory rate on this line of credit, but then reality is going to set in. The bank's going to want to see that 100 grand get reduced. And that was when that solution would get very ugly. They can't afford another $600 a month payment on a $100,000 line of credit. I have borrowers that took credit lines out from credit unions. I'm doing one right now. The balance on their credit union balance is $82,000, and the payment went from $0 to $895 a month. At $0, it was a slam dunk decision. At $895 a month, she's got to take a reverse mortgage out to pay the credit line off. So a credit line makes great sense for somebody who has a forward mortgage. They paid it down, and then they got to pay for their daughter's wedding. And it's a $30,000 bill. And Bob says, I'm not paying $30,000 out of my checking account for this wedding. The bank, because you have a fixed rate closed-end mortgage, even though you only owe them $70,000, they're going to say, Lonnie, I can't help you by simply rewriting the existing mortgage. You're going to either have to take a cash out refinance and start all over again with a new note with another $30,000 of balance on it, or you're going to have to take a home equity loan out. So Bob says, you know what? It's cheaper for me to take the home equity loan out. I'll pay additional money on that $30,000 loan, easy terms, till I pay the wedding off. That could be a solution to the wedding problem. But you understand the bank's position that they cannot just add $30,000 to your original mortgage unless you refinance it. Because if they do that, they will no longer be the first lender. They won't have the first and best lien. A home equity line is already in second position to that mortgage. But the architecture of that loan is that it is open-ended, which means it can go up and down, up to your maximum credit limit at your discretion. So you could take that $30,000 home equity loan, pay it down to $10,000, and then you want to help Rob get a down payment for a house. You got $20,000 left in that line of credit. You might say, take the 20 and you'll pay me back $200 a month. That would be an elegant solution for a home equity loan. But there's a place for a home equity loan, but usually it's not for a senior citizen. Somebody asked me a question at the break, what is the average age of a reverse mortgage borrower? The answer is it's in the early 70s. I have a loan application in for a 97-year-old. We're doing one for a 90-year-old. Their concern is not buying real estate. Their concern is paying for the cost of home health care, which is for a full-time, somebody who's got dementia, that is a $5,000 a month bill. So we're looking at a solution that's going to provide them $60,000 a year. So at that age, though, they get an incredible advance on their home equity. Somebody who owns a $300,000 home would probably get $250,000. So that would pay for that round-the-clock care for 5 years. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
But what we're here today to talk about is reverse mortgage applications for realtors. Everybody in this room is a realtor. They may say, Craig, well, this is a pretty cool product for certain scenarios for somebody who's got an existing mortgage payment. How do I fit into this? The answer is that since 2009, HUD, which is responsible for all reverse mortgages in the U.S., directed FHA, which is a division under HUD, to make reverse mortgages usable to buy real estate. Is there anybody in this room who knows that fact? I would be surprised if the answer is yes. The fact of the matter is this is a tool in the box of a realtor that you got to have in your briefcase, because you've got more and more seniors who are potential buyers that you can provide a very elegant solution for. A very low down payment and no mortgage payment for the rest of their days. That is a pretty good service to offer your customer. So I'm going to go through a few general fleshing out of this concept, and then we're going to look at actual case studies where we used reverse mortgages to solve your client's problems. So the first thing you need to know is when you use a reverse mortgage to purchase a home, you're injecting into the property the equity that is the basis for the reverse mortgage in the first place. So you're a 68-year-old couple, you're tired of living in the big house, the taxes are very high for a couple that hasn't had a student in the public school system for perhaps 25 years. Moreover, the house, which was very attractive to you when you were 50, mom's got to bring the laundry up and down the stairs. It's a very big house for her to clean. It's a very big yard for dad to take care of the lawn, the grass, the snow, the leaves. He's been told if he shovels the driveway, he's going to have a heart attack and die. These are the concerns that your customers have every day about the home they live in right now. Number one, it's probably too expensive for them. Number two, they can't maintain it as easily as they could 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. And the last fact is that the house doesn't work for them anymore. They're paying a ton of taxes. There's 2 people living in this house where there was 5 people living in it when they bought it. The bedrooms are, generally speaking, vacant. I got a friend who lives in Aurora. He hasn't seen half of the rooms in his house for 5 years. He's never been in the rooms. why pay taxes on net square footage if you're never going to use the room? I'm not pointing this at, I'm just saying this is a general reality of people in their late 60s, early 70s when they realize, my God, this house is killing me in its debt service, and it's the wrong house to begin with. So the government said you can use a reverse mortgage to buy the house. It's the only way they could devise, short of providing new pension benefits, to get somebody in this vast pool of customers the opportunity to buy the right house. 5 years ago, we used to call that customer a customer who was downsizing. Now we call that customer a person who is right-sizing. It sort of changes the negative connotation of downsizing. But the fact of the matter is what this customer is going to do is downsize. It's going to downsize from a home that is fast becoming a white elephant for him into a home that really suits his needs. And that doesn't mean that the house is going to be devoid of any luxury features. You can buy a jewel of a house that has a much smaller footprint and that has much lower taxes and insurance. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. Now, when you look at a reverse mortgage, there's a right way and a wrong way for the bank to construct your reverse mortgage. And I really want you to get your arms around this. The first way you can look at a reverse mortgage is with what is called closed-end architecture. If you take a closed-end reverse mortgage out, let's say you take it out for $75,000, which is what you draw from the bank at the title company. That $75,000 will be the only money you can get out of the reverse mortgage. So for most people who want a closed-end reverse mortgage, it's for a specific need and only a specific need. Now, I got to tell you, that would be the last reverse mortgage I would take out. Because although it was taken out for a specific need, the fact of the matter is that a senior's access to money is rarely going to be a one-time thing in their entire surviving lifetime. You may need a reverse mortgage to pay for a massive home improvement, and it's $75,000, and you think that's all you're going to use it for, and you're 66 years old. So you close on this reverse mortgage, you take your $75,000, and that's the end of it. You got $75,000 that you don't have to pay back for your life. 15 years later, you need home health care. One of the two spouses has had a health event in their early 80s. This is a fairly common scenario. Got a healthy guy, he has a heart attack. He has a stroke. He gets senior onset diabetes. These things happen all the time. There is a senility problem that's beginning to emerge. Now, this is the cost of us living a longer time than was projected for our parents. The health service industry has extended our lives, but makes no guarantee about the quality of the extra years they've given us. We got to pay increasingly expensive price tags for keeping us independent. But one of the things I can tell you that I have heard time and time again is the agreement between two spouses or one spouse that they want to die in their house. They don't want to go to a nursing home. Some people, that is less sensitive an issue than others. But I would tell you, if I talk to 100 seniors, 85 of them are going to say, I want to die in the house. I had a senior citizen tell his children that if you put me in a nursing home, I'm going to commit suicide the next day. So don't try to go there, because I am not permitting it. And if you use some kind of force to drive me into a nursing home, I'm going to kill myself. That may not be a pretty conversation, but I got to tell you, I hear this more often than you think. That wife who loves that home and who was married to her husband for 50 years and who lived her life, basically speaking, all of her adult life in that house, wants to die in her bed, and that's the simple truth of it. This loan would fail that customer utterly. The architecture that you ought to make sure that your client gets is called an open-ended architecture. He takes the $75,000 out. Now, against a $300,000 home, he's got much more equity that he could tap if he needed the money. But furthermore, HUD mandates to the lenders that they increase the credit line by roughly 5% a year. So if his maximum loan that he could have got was $200, each year that $200 balance left in the loan will grow by $10,000 compounded. So 15 years later, now that 67-year-old borrower is 82, and he's got to help his spouse with some real costly home health care. He had a hunk of money in the credit line available, growing at 5% a year. He's now got $250,000, $300,000 of credit in this credit line, which will do the trick for his wife. He doesn't have to, and if it's not for his wife, it could grow to $300,000 for him later on. He's healthy at 82. We can't presume he's going to be healthy at 88. At that point, he'll have $400,000 in the credit line. Life-saving for this customer. Stays in the house. He is independent. We have scenarios where the daughter or the son of that 82-year-old, what is he, 55? Got an 82-year-old kid, an 82-year-old mom, dad? Yeah, you're probably in your mid-50s. You could be in your 60s. She wants to help dad, or she wants to help mom, but she's got a job. She's got her own mortgage to deal with. She can't offer mom anything but secondary care. You could go to an elder care attorney, draft a professional services contract for the kid so that they get money to look after the mom or dad on the weekends or on one day off a year. And she goes, a week, and she could go from full-time employment to part-time and solve the problem of her obligation of love and affection for her mother and still meet her financial obligations. But we got to have the money in the account to do that. And the closed end doesn't do that, and the open-ended does. So if you're going to be talking to a lender and all they can offer you is a closed-end solution to this problem, I go to another bank. You with me on this? Any questions arising from this? Everybody's going to get an A on this topic, on the quiz?
Definitely.
Okay, we're going to talk about a couple case studies. I have provided you a handout that has a couple case studies on it. So let's pass those out. I think you can share them. Let's get the people in the back row a one if you got one.
Oh, here, I know them.
Oh, I'm going to need that. Well, somebody's going to have to read me some numbers then. Okay, we have a customer who lives in Hudson. And I'd like to introduce you to them. This is Don and Judy. And Don and Judy are 73 and 74. This is a typical age that we see people. These are a couple who bought a home in Hudson when he was in his early 50s. We discussed that kind of scenario earlier today. And now he's got the problem that perfect storm we talked about earlier is causing him no end of worry over. He does not have a private pension. He worked at a car dealership. His income is primarily based on Social Security and the life savings he had to provide incidental income. So let's talk about Don and Judy. Don has a Social Security benefit. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it $1,850 a month? It's in the second paragraph.
1841.
$1,841. So Don gets $1,841 check from Social Security. And Judy has a Social Security benefit also, does she not? I believe it's $1,159.
Yes.
So, and through the magic of pre-planning this, their gross retirement income is $3,000. Now, actually, their retirement benefit would be slightly less because they would have to pay their Medicare Part B premiums. But I grossed this up in this example so that their net benefit after that was $3,000. So that's their retirement income. Now, in the absence of a house payment, $3,000 a month is a pretty good retirement benefit. You got to pay for a car, and you got to pay for your groceries and other cases, but you got $3,000 a month coming in. You can probably make ends meet. You're not going to live like a king, but you're not going to die of starvation either. What's the problem? What's the elephant in the room in this case? The elephant in the room is that Don and Judy have a mortgage payment. And let's quantify what that mortgage payment is. We got two components to the mortgage payment. The first is the mortgage payment itself, which is how much money?
$2,400.
No, I don't think that's correct.
No, I'm sorry. It's $1,365.
It's $1,365. That's their principal and interest payment. But on top of that, they have an obligation for taxes and insurance, which is, I believe, is $500 a month.
That's right.
So Don and Judy have $1,865 out of every $3,000 check they get eaten up by their housing payment, which gives them a grand total of $1,135 to live on. These people define the definition of the term house poor. They are living at Medicaid levels because they're paying $1,865 for the two of them to live in their house. They're not telling anybody, but I guarantee you that Don and Judy are in despair over this issue. The likelihood is they're deferring the decision on what to do with this house and using their savings, which they're slowly and surely eroding, to make up the difference in the cost of living that they need. This is a case that is out there much more than you think of. 32% of, that's a third of all the people have a mortgage payment at this point in their lives.
At the 70-year-old?
As a 70-year-old. They take the mortgage out when they're 50. 20 years, I'm going to show you an amortization schedule in a minute. Show you how much money they still owe on a mortgage. Okay, so we got a problem here. We got a financial problem. The problem is that we got $1,135 less left to live on for these two people. Okay, now in addition to the cash flow crisis they have come to realize that paying, what was it, $400 for their taxes, or was it $500 for their taxes? So they're paying a $500 bill every month for the two people to live in Hudson. I love Hudson. I'm not sure I love Hudson $500 a month, every month coming out of my pocket. When my kids were going to school in northeastern Ohio, there's no better place to live. Best school system around. But my kids haven't lived with me for a long time. In addition, this is a 3,500 square foot home on a half-acre lot. I don't want to take care of the grass anymore. This is a home that was built in 1972. A lot of the amenities in this home are a little bit outdated now. The principal one is my wife and I need a bathroom that has a nice, comfortable bathtub for my wife and a big shower, easy to get into as well. They also want it to be on one floor, and they want the laundry room close to where the laundry's coming from. So mom and dad don't have to zwig laundry all over the house. Their daughter is the principal of the school in Hiram. They've been down there. That's in Portage County. It's a pretty nice area there. The university, Hiram College, is part of that scene. It's very close to Aurora. There's a lot of services there. Don and Judy are starting to slowly think that Hiram may not be a bad choice for them. They've been talking to their daughter about it, and their daughter said to them, I got to tell you something. There is a development that just went up between Hiram and Garrettsville that has these 1,800 square foot villas, beautiful floor plan, gorgeous amenities, beautiful kitchens, glamour bathrooms, and you could buy it for a song. And the price tag on that villa is $210,000, and it happens to be a maintenance-free villa. So Dad likes this because he didn't have to go out and rake the leaves. He didn't have to shovel a 200-foot-long driveway, which his primary care physician says, you do that, don't come into my office, because you're going to die. The taxes are a half of what they are in Hudson. The insurance cost is less. They could sell their home, buy this home, have a better life, and finally get a handle on their finances. So Lonnie and Bob go out and look at the house. And their realtor says, you probably buy this house for $200,000. And I would tell you that your house in Hudson, although it may not be right for you, because it's a big house, in a big yard, in a terrific neighborhood, we're going to get $350,000 for this house all day long. So they put it up for sale, and sure enough, within 10 days, they get an offer for $350,000 on it. So how much do they owe on the house? I want you to go into the next page of this and find the amortization schedule that I've included. It's back 3 pages. Okay, look for mortgage payment 239. About 60% down the page.
No, the next page.
239, you see it?
Yeah.
This was the mortgage that Don and Judy had when they bought the home in Hudson. So look at mortgage payment 239, just under 20 years, one mortgage payment. They owe $126,000 on this. You see that? They had an original mortgage at $240,000. So they still, after 20 years, still owe 55% of the balance on this thing. That is a real problem for seniors. So we owe 126. So let's do the accounting of the closing of this house. So we get 350, but we're not going to net 350. What's the first thing we got to pay as a closing cost on this? And the answer to that is going to be, now is it 300 or 350? I believe it's 300 we sold the house for. Okay, let's change that.
That was the 350.
Well, we got 300 for it. That's what the house was worth. Forget about the 350, I was wrong.
Okay.
The house was worth 300 and that's what they sold it for. So the first thing that is going to come off of this is a real estate commission. Chances are it was 655 contract, 6,000. So I think we're going to owe about $16,000 of commissions on this. So the $16,000 comes off of this. That leaves us with $284,000. We're going to have some closing costs on this. You're going to be responsible for 6 months of taxes on this property and some other closing. What was the closing cost? It's in the example. I believe it was $5,000. Let's call it $5,000 for the sake of the example. So I got $16,000 of commissions. I got $5,000 of closing costs. So we're going to write, we got $279,000, but we still have an elephant in the room. We still owe $126,000 on the previous mortgage. So we're going to pay that off right now. It's 126. Let's just make it 126 round. We're going to have a net check to this couple for $153,000. Everybody see that? That's what they would net out of this house if they sold it tomorrow. Whether or not they had another home to buy or not, if they sold the house, this is pretty close to what they net out of this deal. Anybody have a question about these numbers? I got a bunch of realtors in here. So we got $153,000 left to us to buy another. We got to live someplace. I got $153,000. I believe that Don and Judy still have $50,000 in the bank. Is that a correct statement? It's in the front page. So we have $50,000. So we got a total budget, if we take every dime they got, $203,000. And as it happens, the realtor for the property in the Hiram-Garrettsville area convinces the owner to sell them the house for $200,000. They had enough money to pay cash for the house, but they'd have $3,000 left to their names. This is not a prudent way to do this. They could put 20% down on the house, which would be $40,000. They would have a $160,000 mortgage, but all we're doing is moving the debt from Hudson to Garrettsville. We're not really solving anything. If they take a reverse mortgage to buy the house in Garrettsville, how much money would they need to come up with? There's a chart in your there's okay. The answer is 31%. 31% of $200,000 is $62,000. So instead of bringing $203,000 to the table, they bring $62,000 to the table. They buy the house with a reverse mortgage. They put $62,000 down. The reverse mortgage lender holds the note for the balance. So at closing, just like any other bank, they're going to pay the difference between the down payment and the purchase price. Don and Judy will have no mortgage payment on the house in in Hiram. They will have no mortgage payment for the rest of their lives. Instead of bringing $203,000 to the table, they're only bringing $62,000 to the table. They have $141,000 still in the bank, where they only had $50,000 before. So Don and Judy have gone to where they had to pay an $1,800 plus mortgage payment to just the taxes and the insurance in Hiram. And how much are the taxes and insurance? It's on the front page. I think it's total $255, isn't it? It's toward the bottom, I believe. Is it $255 or $275? I think it's $275. So what they're going to have to pay for this house in Garrettsville every month, or Hiram, is $275. Not $1,800, $275. They have a $3,000 net mortgage, net retirement income, and they have $50,000 in the bank. Now we have $3,000 minus the $275 in taxes and insurance. They now have a $2,700 retirement income, no mortgage payment, and instead of having $50,000 in the bank, they got $140,000 in the bank. I don't know what column you would rather be on, but I can tell you I'd rather be in this column. I got the house I needed in the first place. I've saved myself a fortune in cash flow. I can live on $2,700 a month. I couldn't live on the $1,100 I was with before. If you take the $1,125 or $1,135 they had left after the mortgage payment in Hudson, we're increasing their income by 250%. If I would, how much capital would I need to have to increase your income from $1,100 to $2,700? I would need $1,600 a month. That's $20,000 a year. At 1%, how much money would I need? I need $2 million, which you and I are fresh out of $2 million. This has the effect of putting $2 million of the interest value of $2 million in your retirement benefit. But I got to say, more importantly, this is still the right house for Don and Judy. You know, they're not youngsters. They're healthy, but they're not crisp. Taking care of that house in Hudson was no easy task for them. And it was getting to be less and less worth it to them. It was worth it to them when they were 55. It was worth it to them when they were 60. Don was still working. It was worth it to them when they were 65. It's not worth it to them today. The realtor who guided them through this maze got the listing deal on the house in Hudson and the buying deal on the villa in Hiram. She gave superb advice to her client and made a good living on it as well. That is, to me, that is the definition of a win-win scenario. And I can tell you, her clients, Don and Judy, are so grateful that they're in this house in Hiram, 5 minutes from their daughter's house, at half the cost to live in the house, and having $90,000 more in the bank. They took this out with an open-ended loan so that if there's an issue 10 years down the road, they're still going to have plenty of money to deal with that. This is a very simple and elegant solution for a very thorny problem that Don and Judy had. Any questions about this scenario? Does everybody in the room agree that this solution probably saved Don and Judy's financial life? Okay, let's forget about Don and Judy. Don and Judy's problems are solved. We got a new problem. And if you thinking Don and Judy had a problem, where do you see this one? This is a problem. Tell me who the borrower is. This is a dupe. This is a twinplex.
Donna, who's 74,
Donna is 74,
a widow.
a widow. Donna's husband died. She's 74. She lost her Social Security benefit because of the death of her husband. She chose her husband's Social Security benefit, which was how much money?
His was 1955.
Okay, she got 1955. What was hers? What did she lose? Okay, so she lost, by virtue of her husband dying, she lost $1,300 of her income. So she went from a fairly comfortable retirement to serious jeopardy because she still got a mortgage on her house in Stowe. How much is that mortgage?
$1,255.
$1,255. After she pays the mortgage, what has she got left?
Plus taxes, $305.
She's got nothing. She's got nothing.
Do you have any money in the bank?
She does. She's using the money from an insurance policy that her husband left her and subsidizing her income because she didn't have any income. This woman is not house poor. This woman is really, she's Medicaid eligible. I mean, let's face it, this woman is now to the point where she is in true poverty. She's got $700 a month to live on. $700 a month in 2016 is not going to do it. She's still got to pay her utilities out of that. The utilities alone are going to eat up a third of it. So this woman went from having $3,200 of income to $700 a net income. What a fantastic gift to give to this widow. She's a widow. She doesn't need this house. She's rattling around in this house. Same scenario with the house in Hudson. This woman needs income. I can forgive the mortgage payment, but still she doesn't have enough money to live on. The realtor found for Donna a lovely twinplex that is in Stowe. If you go down toward Stowe on 91 and you turn on Arndale, there is a whole section of really nice condos just off of Arndale.
Twinplexes.
The twinplexes. And the realtor found a twinplex for her for how much money? I believe it was $200,000.
184,000.
184,000. Okay. Judy can buy this home for a little less money than Don and Judy. She could buy it for 30% down. So 30% down is how much? She needs $55,000. She sells the house in Stowe. How much was the house in Stowe worth? $240,000, I think it was, wasn't it?
The house appraised for 175.
Our house appraised $175.
Okay, it's $175,000. So we got $175,000. We got to pay the typical closing costs. So what would be, there would be 6% of the first 1,000 and 5% of the, so it would be $11,000 roughly in commissions and probably another $4,000 in closing costs. So down and dirty, she's got to pay $15,000. So Donna nets about $160,000. Out of the 160, she takes $55,000. She takes $55,000 and buys the Twinplex. She's got $105,000 left that goes into her savings account. The Twinplex will have no mortgage payment. She's going to live inside A. Side B, I believe, rents for $1,100 a month.
Yes.
So she gets an $1,100 boost in her income and has no mortgage payment. So let's do the math. Before she had $700. Now she's got her Social Security benefit, which is $1,800,
1955.
$1,955, and we're just going to add $1,100 to it. So she's got $3,055 minus the taxes and maintenance on the house in Stowe, which is how much? I believe it's around $350. $350. So we got to take the $350 off of this. So she's going to have a retirement income of $2,705. Her benefit, her net scenario before was $700. We have practically quadrupled this woman's retirement benefit. We've also enhanced her savings account and stabilized it. Where before she was taking money out every month, now we're going to inject the balance of the money from the Stowe sale into that account. I believe now she's got, what, about $125,000, $130,000 in her savings? It's in the bottom.
$100,000, $100,500.
Okay, so now her account's going up to six figures. She's got a $2,700 balance, and in all honesty, I know this for a fact. The rent of $1,100 was after she made a deal with the tenant to shovel the snow, mow the grass, and rake the leaves. Okay, this is another scenario where I would say using the reverse mortgage benefits and the fact that one of the laws that no one knows about is that you as a realtor can buy up to a 4-unit complex for your eligible borrower. And as long as that borrower lives in one of the units, up to 4 rentals, up to 3 other rentals a month come into this customer. You could have a 4-banger out there where you're getting $2,400, $800 a unit for it. But this is a nice Twinplex. It's got a really nice backyard to it. There's there's a double car garage on each side of it. I know that she is now renting one of the sides of her garage to a guy that's got a collector Corvette. She doesn't need both sides of the garage. She's only got one. She's got a Honda. There's a screen porch on these. There's patios on them. Her side is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. The tenant side is 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Anybody have a thought about what direction rental the values are going to be? Is there any scenario you can contemplate where the rental is going to go down?
No,
Never happened.
it's gonna go up.
It's going to go up slowly, but slowly, inexorably. She's going to get a built-in adjustment to her income, sort of as an inflation hedge. Really, Donna loves this place. She likes the tenants. She's minimized, it was very low maintenance when she bought it. She has the actual routine maintenance covered by the tenant, and she's putting a lot of that money in the bank. She's gone from a scenario as from being somebody who takes money out of the bank into a customer who's putting money into the bank. That says a lot for a mortgage product. And I got to tell you, this woman is so thankful to her realtor for making this happen for her. This is the first time since her husband died that she has a sense of financial independence. And it's pretty hard to put a dollar value on that. But she's not having an ulcer anymore. Got the right house, the right price, the right tenant, and this was a life-saving deal for Donna. I feel strongly about that. These are two examples I've given you of how a realtor can manage this, captain this decision-making process so that her client is best served, and by giving that advice is incidentally, but not unimportantly, going to be well compensated for her time. And to me, I love that scenario. When your knowledge controls your power and your ability to make an imprint on the marketplace, I can't tell you what a good place that is for a professional to be in. Okay, we're done. If you guys have any other questions, fine. If not, sign your attendance sheets. Put any comments you have about the seminar at the bottom, and Karen will make sure that you get via email your certificate for completing the course. Thank you very much for your attendance. And if you have any questions that relate to scenarios you already have, come see me after the seminar. Thank you very much.